Hello, YouTubers. Today we're going to talk about the next assignment in the OtripleS project. I apologize for not being able to put out there an announcement and talk about a little bit about the issues that the project is trying to solve, and some of the switching between the roles. You will notice real quick, from the assignments that I started to give bigger responsibilities to particular individuals. So you'll notice in here, like for instance, is going to have the entire piece of controllers. Hatem is going to take the entire piece of acceptance. The same thing technically happened with the previous assignments. So basically, some people probably have noticed with the assignment model, I started just giving people, the things that are less than services, so they don't require unit testing, they don't require a lot of business logic, they don't require a lot of work around all the possibilities and all the permutations and all that. I thought it might be a better idea to just assign the entire piece, the entire component to the individual. Now, let's talk a little bit about modularity, right? Like when we talk about engineering and engineering our processes, we don't just talk about the engineering from the perspective of the code that we're writing and how we're writing that code. It's also how we're organizing ourselves around how we're supposed to be writing that code. So a lot of people said to me, well, I'm waiting on this other PR to be done, right? The whole reason why I'm giving you a particular, if you're working on a particular component level, let's say for instance, Muhammad Ali is building the controllers, but there are services that are not completed yet. What you can do, because we're using dependency injection, is basically to go back and say, okay, let me put a dummy implementation of a particular method that I want to actually, not even an implementation, just the interface, right? Just the interface. You could put the interface and say, okay, I want this, to basically be the equivalent of that call. What's a good example of that? You could actually, let me show you real quick in here. Let's say, I have a controller in here, and let's say this controller, let's look at the controllers real quick. There you go. So if you look at the controllers in here, you will notice that I think this is 205, that's pretty good. So let's say I have a classroom controller, for instance, and I am expecting to write a controller method around, for instance, delete all classrooms, for instance, delete all classrooms, for instance. How do we go about doing something like that if I don't have a delete all classroom? So I'm supposed to do a controller method, and the service implementation is not ready yet. Someone was late, they couldn't do it, and you're not sure of whether you want to do it or not. You just want to finish up your task. The ideal situation is that for you to go and actually implement the service and then build the controller. I really appreciate people who do that. But let's just say someone is already having or has an open draft PR that are working, or you don't want to wait until your day where you're supposed to work on the assignment comes because you have other commitments and you want to finish your task early, right? You can actually do that really simply by just going and saying, okay, this is the classroom service. I could go into this classroom service in here. I can go to the definition of the interface. And I could just go here and say, well, this guy doesn't really return anything. So I'm just going to go here and say value task and then delete all classrooms async or something of that sort, right? So if you're deleting all classrooms async, you could go into your implementation, just put a dummy implementation. Obviously, this guy's going to complain because the interface is not implemented. If you do control period, you could leave it not implemented like that, right? And then you could head over to your controller and start saying, okay, I'm building this endpoint, so it's just going to be HTTP delete, right? And it's going to be a public method, public action async value task, right? And then maybe an action result without any response in there, and delete all classrooms. async, something like that. And then inside that guy, you're basically handling your exceptions, and then you're saying return await this dot service like that, classroom service dot delete all classrooms async. So that's one way you could actually implement, like do your own thing. Let's see why this guy is actually complaining. This guy is saying, oh, it doesn't really return anything. So you could just say await, something like that, and it should be happy, right? I think. Action result, and then you could go back and return OK. So OK basically is you saying, you know, the operation has completed successfully. I don't have to do anything other than saying 200, the operation's completed successfully, because you're not really returning anything. You could do something like that. The idea here is that I don't want you to just say, okay, I'm an engineer, I'm someone who can actually, you know, stitch a couple of entities together and make my code look pretty. The very process of writing the code also needs to be pretty. The very process of actually engineering the software, you know, when you pair, when you push, you know, a failing test and then a passing test and then another failing test and then a passing test. Especially, I'm gonna start like having people pair together. So there's a couple of things that I'm thinking about, you know, very seriously. I want to dump Getter completely. So we don't want to use Getter as a means of communication. We want to be able to use Microsoft Teams, because Teams allows you to have calls with people and communicate with people and share screens and explain things to people. It's much more efficient than Getter, right? And it's a lot easier to use, and you know, you don't really have to have, you know, you don't have to pay for an account to be on Teams. So I want to move everyone to Teams. So that's one part. The other part is that I'm thinking about seriously is starting to pair people. So I want people to learn about pair programming, right? Pair programming basically is the idea that, you know, you're working with another engineer and you're having a discussion, you know, and I will put in the assignments of people who want to do pair programming on the project. This might be a couple of sprints ahead from now. And what's basically going to happen is that you are going to write a failing test, your pair is going to make it pass, and then they're going to write a failing test, and then you're going to make it pass, and then you're going to write a failing test, and so on and so forth, right? I'm going to reference in the video here a little article I just wrote recently about clean coding or pure coding. Pure coding is basically around the idea of, you know, making sure that the very process of writing software itself is engineered and is well written and is well scoped around better practices and more enjoyable experience than just stitching together a bunch of code and just pushing out there and saying that the task is done. I want people to enjoy the very experience of writing the code, not just delivering the code, because the delivery of the code or the demoing of a project only takes about 10 minutes, maybe, I don't know, 30 minutes if you're demoing a large project and a big feature. But where the most of your time is actually being spent, it's actually being spent in the making of that demo and in the making of this commit or PR. So that experience itself is where our investment needs to go. And I want you to be, you know, very aware of how to improve their overall productivity and experience, just so you can enjoy the very process itself, not just the end result. It'll be just like, you know, when you see a bunch of, you know, little kids playing soccer in the streets, you know, down the street, you know, it doesn't really matter who wins or loses, you know, it doesn't really matter. There's no reward, there's no prize, but they enjoy the very process of playing soccer down the street, right? So coding should be just as enjoyable as that. Coding should be just as enjoyable as that. And I'm going to walk you through some practices and things that you need to do. You know, obviously stay away from copying and pasting code that you know, don't quite understand. I don't completely prohibit it. I just say if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to make some embarrassing mistakes, but you know, we're always here to help and make sure that, you know, you understand what you're doing. All right. So this is one piece. The other piece is, let's jump back into our assignments for this week, and let's talk a little bit about the model that we're working with. So, all right, with this model in here, there's a couple of things that we need to talk about. We're creating a semester course, and this semester course is basically it's an instance or a subset of what a course is, right? So one course as an idea or a concept is gonna contain multiple semester courses, right? And these semester courses could be introduced and taken care of and taught by teachers. So multiple teachers for multiple semester courses to a particular course, right? So any semester has basically a start date and end date. A year has 2 semesters, so that's pretty given. And then you have a status in here. The status can be pending when you're setting up a semester that didn't really start yet. And we're going to talk about eventual eventing, meaning that, how can you switch the status of something, as soon as the time comes, something around queues, using Azure queues, timed queues with particular time where it just comes in and wakes up your service and updates a record in the database. I also put a link in the description of this video to talk to you a little bit about scheduled eventing. How can you actually schedule a status change for a particular entity in your database. There's also the course itself, so it's referencing the course. Obviously, the course, and then there's the teacher. So this is the teacher. So this is like a one-to-one relationship with the teacher because every teacher has, a one semester course. It could actually be multiple because one teacher could teach multiple semester courses. So that should be okay. So it's a one-to-many, one-to-many, and then there's the classroom. That's one-to-many as well, and then the rest of this is just pretty straightforward. The reason why I took over the database model setup and database migrations is there's a little bit of, referencing setup that I want to show you how to do today. And then eventually when we run into the same thing again, you should be able to do this on your own. So let's just go back to our code in here. Let me revert all our changes. So this is an undo right here. All right, so everything should be good. And then let's just start with the model, right? So let's go in here and let's say this is semester courses. Apparently I do have that already. Let's view the hidden folders. Yeah, there it is. So let me include this in this project. And then let's create a semester course model. So here's our guy. Let's add copyrights. If you do Alt-Enter, it should add the semester course for you. And then here's the I-auditable for adding the data. I think it'll give you a not implemented exception. You can just go and copy these in. That should be pretty straightforward. Instead of doing that, we could just add these audit fields at the bottom. All of this is good. And then let's see, so created by, updated by, and then we want to make all of these public. If you do Alt, you can actually type in multiple lines at the same time. So if you do Alt in your Visual Studio and drag, you should be able to type in multiple lines at the same time. And then let's start with the normal stuff. So let's go in here and say prob good. Here's an ID, and then here's another one for so what did we talk about? We talked about having the, let's just grab all of this and drag it down in here. Let's drag all of this down in here like this. Let's just fix the indentation, and here's public. This should all be good. And then let's bring in some of these models. So we do control period. It should find all the little models that we had in the past. Classroom, all of this is good. And then created date, updated date, and create by, update by already in place, so we don't need to repeat those. And then the last thing is there's the semester course status. You could do control period and generate a type for you. It'll generate a new class for you, and it will put the copyrights for you out of the box. So you don't have to do that again. And you could just turn this into an enum. And we could turn these into pending, started, ended, and canceled. Canceled is important for these, I don't know, some people do it with one L, some people, I think it's British, American, English kind of stuff. All right. Anyway, let's separate the related entities. So let's put these related entities together, just like that. So you have the main entities, you have the related entities, and then you have the audit information at the very bottom. Ideally, we should be able to attach some references to created by and updated by, and they become their own related entities. But for the time being, this should be pretty straightforward. Now, this alone is not enough because you still need to actually set up the relationship between a semester course and the teachers, the courses, the classroom IDs, and all that kind of stuff. And then we talked about the students, and we said student to semester course is going to be a many-to-many relationship because one course will reference multiple students, but also one student will be related to multiple courses. Thanks to Amit for the insight on that topic. So let's just start going ahead. So for each and every entity in here, you want to go to that entity and you want to set up some sort of so let's skip in here. We could go and say IEnumerable and then say semester course. So this is semester courses get set. So this is basically you saying, okay, you have multiple semester courses for this particular course. Let's drag this guy all the way at the bottom so we know it's a part of a, it's auto-filled by something else. So let's just put that guy in, semester courses. So that's for the course. So one course could have multiple semester courses with different dates and all that. The same thing happens with the teacher. Let's go to the teacher in here. And let's go and do the same thing. Let's actually copy that guy that we did so we don't have to do that multiple times. So here we go, teacher. So we did it with the course. Let's go to definition. Here's semester courses. Right, here's a teacher. Here's our semester course. Let's bring the references in here. Generic and models. All right, we have this guy. It's perfect. Oh, I forgot to make this public. That's probably important. Maybe copy this guy, and then let's go back to the we're gonna also need to fix some tests as well, but we'll get back to this one in a second. Let's just fix the teachers. The teacher is fine, and then the course. The course is not fine, so let's fix that one. So you got that, and then in the semester course, we should also have the classroom. And a semester course relationship with a classroom, I don't know, it might be spread across multiple classes, right? So ideally, I'm assuming that a course might be taught in one or many classrooms, based on how you handle it and how you communicate with it. There are occasions where, I don't know, Thursdays and Fridays you're in building A, but you know Mondays and Tuesdays, Wednesdays you're in building C. So this happens. I've seen this in real life, so it should be possible. So let's just set this to be also a one-to-many relationship like that. Now, you'll notice something very interesting though. As soon as you start setting up relationships, the first thing that's going to complain, as you can see, is the relationships. You know, you see the automated generation of these related entities. They're starting to shake a little bit. So because I have the live unit testing, you can see immediately things are starting to fall apart. You know, especially the acceptance test, because acceptance test now is trying to generate for something, it just doesn't know what to do with it. Something like this. So what do we do about that? Let's go into the classroom API test, and wherever we're generating this, we could just go simply and say, you know, on type or property, whatever you want to call it. You could go here and say semester course. Right, I'm assuming we're not building our own models in here, are we? API, yeah, perfect. Course in here. We probably should build our own models, right? But let's just go here and say something like, you could go and say on property classroom dot semester courses, because we really don't care about what it's returning. I'm just going to say ignore it, and let's see what happens here. It should technically just fix our problem because now your auto generator is trying to generate. I think we still have one more. Let's get that guy here. Looks like we have two fillers in here. Let's fix that one as well. All right, looks like everything is happy now, right? So basically ignored, or maybe not. Let's just see what's happening in here. Yeah, it should be good. It should be good. So the same thing happens with the rest, right? So with the teacher, you're going to find these failing tests. It's very likely it's going to be in the acceptance area. You want to make sure that when you're generating a filler for the teacher or the courses, you know, you want to do pretty much the same thing. So you're just going to ignore this guy, add semester courses, ignore, same thing in here. Looks like there's a little bit of redundancy in the fillers in here if someone needs to do a code rub. Also, we shouldn't leave an empty line between one-liners. So you probably want to clean that one up as well. So all of this should be fine. This can be a one-liner as well. Just a quick code rub as I go. I'm seeing things in here that can be simplified. Yeah, just about right. All right. Let's see what else we broke. So classroom, right? Classroom, acceptance tests still have problems in here. Let's take a look and fix the problem. So we're just ignoring the type because we really don't care about it. Not just yet. Not just yet. Obviously we'll get to it, but not just yet. So this is you modifying existing code for related entities. This should be fine. Let's see if we have anything else that's broken before we start doing the next step in our work. All right, let's run our tests real quick. Let's make sure things are working correctly. Here we go. Should take just about a second. This is the acceptance tests running. We have about 15 of those. 15, 3 by 5. Yeah, about, okay, so all is good and dandy. Let's just put a little commit in here and say add semester course model, add semester course relations, model relations, not database relations, and then fix breaking test for random generation. Okay, so we have that stuff. All of this is good. Now let's jump to the real business here. We want to build our storage broker, but more importantly, we want to build references. And this is a new thing to this project. So let me show you how we're going to build a reference to this project and how this is going to work. In the brokers area, you have your storage, you have all that kind of stuff. Let's just start simply by creating an interface for an iStorage broker. This is iStorage broker dot SemesterCourses.cs. This is the semester courses and this is public partial. We're not going to put anything in this guy yet. We'll come back to it in a second. So let's do this. This is add. This is great. Here we go. Right, now let's put the implementation. But the implementation itself is not the trick here. The trick here is actually how you're going to set up these relationships and how the database is going to understand those relationships. So let's just go in here and say this is storage broker dot semester courses.cs. So you have this guy, and this is a partial class. And more importantly, you have a DB set with semester course and semester courses, like that. All right. So we set up the DB set. You guys have done this multiple times. It should be pretty straightforward. Now let's set up the relationship for that stuff, right? So I'm going to add another partial file. So this is semester courses. I'm just going to go in here and say storage broker dot semester courses dot references dot cs. So what is this references stuff dot cs? I think I did this wrong. Storage broker dot semester dot references This guy should just nest right under this guy. Storage broker. Let me copy this guy here. Maybe I just misspelled something. Let's put this guy like this. Storage. Yeah, there you go. This guy is nesting right under it. So you have the storage broker, semester courses, and then under that there is the references. Let's see what are we gonna do with these references. So set some copyrights, Alt Enter or Control period, whichever your preference is. And here's a private void add semester courses course references. Okay, and this guy this guy basically is going to be used under the model configuration. Like in your storage broker in here, we have on configuring, but we also, if you do an override, you see model on model creating, which gives you a model builder. We'll come back to this guy in a second. What matters to me here, how long is this guy, by the way? If it's over 120, we don't want it. Okay, so this guy's good. So this model creating, we want to take this model builder and start building the relationships between a semester course, and this is a one-to-many relationship. A one-to-many relationship. So let's go in here and start saying this is the model builder, like this. And now comes the tricky part. Some people use annotations, like back in the old days when we used to do Entity Framework with .NET Framework. You know, we used to use annotations on top of the model. But with the Entity Framework core and with the evolution of the modularization of, you know, database communications and ORM in general, you know, and the approach that Microsoft is taking now, especially the .NET team with, you know, with the Fluent API, we're gonna basically follow that route instead of just using annotations. I think it's a lot cleaner. It's a lot easier to understand. Let's just start with one. Let's say model builder entity. So this is an entity, and then I'm building for the semester course, right? So this semester course, what's its situation? Has one semester course. So this course has one teacher. Right, with many, the teacher itself has many semester courses, like this. Right, and then this guy has foreign key. The foreign key here is on the course itself. So course, the semester course, so the course dot teacher ID. And on delete, don't do anything. The action on delete don't do anything, so we don't want to actually cascade delete or anything. So you see what I put here? I basically built a one-to-many relationship. I'm saying this semester course has one teacher, and the teacher has many semester courses, and the foreign key is the teacher ID. After we run the migration, I'm going to show you how that stuff looks in the database. You're going to love it a lot. Something very similar to that is going to happen with the course. We probably need to say it's semester course because we're going to do a relationship with a course. So using course and course is not going to work out. And then also with the classroom. Something like that. So let's try this out. Let's just change this to semester course like that. Let's take that stuff like that. All right. So let's start with the course now. So this is course. This is a semester course. So a semester course has one course, is referencing one course, while the course itself is referencing multiple semester courses. It's one to many. And then back again to the semester course with the course ID, like this. Course ID. So this is the second relationship that we want to set out. The last relationship we want to set out is basically the semester course to the classroom. So it has one classroom. Semester course has one classroom. And one classroom, but a classroom could actually reference multiple semester courses. And this is this guy, and it's the classroom ID. And then you probably want to say here classroom. Here you go. So here's the entire relationship. So we basically set one-to-many relationship between a teacher has many semester courses, a course has many semester courses, a classroom can host multiple semester courses. Now, what do we do with this function? We can go to the root in here and add this function in here. And every time we have a new model, we can just very simply pass in the new function. Every time we want to build a relationship, we can pass in a new function like this. Now, the real question here is, does this work? Does it work? What does that look like? If you look at our current database right now, SQL Server, if you look at OtripleS, you will notice that it has classroom, courses, students, and teachers. Great. Let's run our migration, see how that stuff works. Let's go here and say add migration. And this is semester course with relations, or just semester course. This should be fine. Let's add the migrations. See if that one works out. Build succeeded. Running the migration, and here we go. See how it's starting to set up the foreign key, primary keys, generated the entire thing for us with classrooms, courses, and teachers. It's beautiful, right? But let's verify that stuff. Don't just take that at face value. Let's just add copyrights in here, right? And let's go and see if I refresh my database in here. You will notice that I have a semester course. That's right. And in the columns, you will notice that I have keys, foreign keys that reference the courses, the teachers, the classroom ID, and so on and so forth. So that looks like a good relationship entity that we built in here. Wonderful. The last thing I want to do is basically just put in the storage broker, which is the easiest thing in the world. If you pick up literally anything in here and go to the semester course, like I said, you can't do copy pasta. You just better be knowing what you're doing, because if you don't know what you're doing, then you're just going to embarrass yourself. So there's this guy, and then let's just go and get iQueryable, the references that we care about, and GUID. We need system, I think, for that. So this is all good. And then finally, last but not least, you can highlight all of this, do Control F, and then drop that guy and say replace every course with semester course. And replace. That replaces everything for me. And then let's pick up the lowercase course. This is case sensitive, right? Because we're selecting this guy right here. This is semester course. You select done. Now all we have to do is just bring in the reference and make sure things are not over 120 characters. So all of this is 92. There you go. That's the broker, right? Now let's go into something very similar to that. Let's take the courses storage implementation. I'm just going to copy all of this in here. And I'm just going to go to the semester courses. I'm going to dump that guy in here. Just do Control MO. So now I'm selecting everything. Sorry, I collapsed everything. And then let's just bring in the references that we care about, which is all of this combined. System, all of this combined. And then let's do Control F. Drop. You want to replace semester course with course. Like this. Something went wrong. Hold on. Let's do Control F. Let's take course and replace it with semester course, like this. So that's one piece. And then let's take lowercase course and replace that with semester course with lowercase s. like this, right? This way I think everything should be fine. So if I, let's see, we still have some errors though. Oh, entity entry, right? I forgot about that one. Let's see how long our lines are right now. This is 120. We probably want to break that down a little bit and take a new line since this guy became a two-liner. Let's break this guy down. This is 100 characters. This is 113 characters. And this here is 113 characters. So that should be pretty much everything you need, you know, to run your semester course entity, right? That should be everything you need. The rest is just on you, you know, to build the services and all that kind of stuff. This here should be everything you need. And I think as we go now, we're starting to see entities starting to communicate with each other, right? You want to probably pay attention to the idea of exception library will throw an invalid reference exception if you are trying to persist an entity with a reference to an entity that doesn't really exist. And the acceptance test around this is going to be a little bit interesting because you have to create a course, you have to create a teacher, you have to create a classroom before you actually create a semester course. How are you guys going to handle that? I'm going to rely on you to figure out how you can handle that kind of stuff. But more importantly, there's a new exception that you need to handle, which is an invalid reference exception. Invalid reference exception. So basically, in other words, like when you're going and saying, these are my services, and in my services, basically, I have a bunch of exceptions. There are exceptions in here that you use, like duplicate key exception. This guy coming from an open source library called exceptions, which basically takes the DB update exception and turn it into something more meaningful. In our case here, because the entity that we're passing in has a reference to another entity, you need to handle an exception called invalid reference, reference, let's see, exceptions dot models dot exceptions dot foreign key constrained conflict exception. Foreign key constrained conflict exceptions. You want to handle that guy because if someone is passing to you an entity that doesn't, especially for the people who are going to do the add, people who are doing the add more than anything else, maybe the modify as well. If you're doing the add or the modify, you probably want to pay attention to that exception and you want to probably handle that exception because it's really, really important that you know how to throw an exception. And by the way, the error that comes back is bad request, still bad request. But how are you going to handle that? I'm going to wait for your PRs and see how you guys are going to do that stuff. All right, so let's commit this guy real quick. So we have the storage brick. I'm just going to take a quick look before I commit my code so I know everything looks right. See right here, there is a little error. Let's find out what this error is about. Insert semester course. Okay, let's see what's this about. Insert semester course async. And then semester courses. Do we have insert semester course async? Something is odd and funny. Let's see. Let's do control period and say implement and see what it's going to implement. Insert semester course async. I might have named my functions. Semester course async. Okay, let's look at this guy. Semester course async. Let's pick up one of those and see the difference. Might tell us exactly what's going on. Insert semester course async. Let's put them side by side just to understand. There might be a little bit of this one character missing somewhere. That's how I could probably find out what's going on. Async. Are these exactly the same? Interesting. They're almost identical. Let's see if I revert that a little bit. Let's see why this guy's complaining. Storage broker. All of this is gone. Let's see, could this be a little glitch in the system? It could be possible. And semester courses. Partial. This is all good. Let me just build and see. This is a little odd. Storage broker, semester. Oh, this guy. Semester, like that. Semester. Okay. Semaster. So it could be just a spelling thing. So if we go to the semester courses in here. Okay, so this guy is that. Semester course reference. Oh, it's possible that it has a... It's also very possible that it has a different namespace. Semester courses is API storage. So this is good. I don't think these need to be public or anything. So that's that. Okay, so this is the method that I'm looking for. And this is the implementation. Insert semester course async. I don't know, so weird. Let's just take this guy. It could be something that I'm just not... Let's see, if I just put this like this, and I go in here, does this complain list? Does not implement interface member, insert semester course. Huh. Entity, okay, we have all of this. That's one interesting problem. Let's see. What we can do also is that we can go here and say it's also interesting that it decided to select public for some of those but not others. Okay, that makes it happy. I wonder if it shouldn't really, but does this make it angry? It does not. It does not. So partial storage broker, this is good, and the semester course is also storage broker partial class in the same namespace. That's amazing. The one thing I'm thinking about is probably they're not connecting to each other in some way. So let's go down here to the semester course and make sure that things are actually talking to each other. So if I do this, right, and I don't explicitly talk about that and just set those as public, Let's see what happens, just out of curiosity. Just to debug the problem, see what's the deal. So does this guy still complain? This guy still complains. Interface. Does not implement blah blah blah. Cannot implement. Select semester course by ID because it does not have a matching return type of value task. I think it might be. Let's go back to our semester course, for instance. This is value task, insert, select semester course by ID, right? And then update semester course async, and then delete semester course. So all of this is good. All of this is great. That's the kind of stuff that comes at the very end, the last second, and makes you wonder what's going on. All right, we'll figure it out. All right, so we have this guy in here. Okay, and this guy is mad. It doesn't see. So this is OtripleS brokers. Just to be sure, this guy's correct. We might be missing something very small. What about SemesterCourse? This guy's on OtripleS. Yeah, this guy has the right stuff. The copy pasta is dangerous. Select all semester courses. This is good. Semester courses here is good. I wonder if I just copied all of this, just out of curiosity, and I pasted it right here under this guy. Oh, I think I know what the problem is. Yeah. So when you generate for migration, sometimes you might try to bring in references. I bet this guy is something in here is referencing migration incorrectly, and that's the problem possibly. This guy is referencing the models. This guy, though awkwardly enough, is referencing migrations, which is not okay. Like this. And I really hope that I didn't pull in the semester course model anything from the migrations. I don't think I did. No, that's still not the problem. That's still not the problem. Let's look at what we're referencing in the semester courses in here. See, something here is referencing the migration model, and that's why this is bad. We need the actual model, not the migration. When you generate a migration, it generates its own model, and it's really bad. So now this guy will be happy, and now everything is happy. Let's go back and commit our code. Everything looks good. Tests are passing. Yeah, you want to pay attention to these things. You want to look at your code real quick before. See, the migration creates a similar, especially if you name your migration after a particular thing. It's very likely that, you know, if you name your migration after the same model, you want to be careful not to pull in that model instead of the model that you're working with. Anyway, so this is here model migrations, and in here storage broker full CRUD operations. Alright, so that should be good enough. I'm going to push that guy. And then one last thing for the team to just think about when you're running your code. I noticed that there are things that are not really test covered, and I'm going to show you right now how that works. There is a feature in here in your test-driven development. You could go into the unit test and say analyze code coverage. And if you analyze code coverage, we are running on 100% code coverage for business logic and endpoints, right? So we're targeting endpoints, but for the business logic, wherever the services live. So what's not covered is about 12%, right? And we're going to ignore the unit tests. We really don't care about that. But the one we really care about is we don't care, like there's services, teachers, courses. So students is fully tested, but if you look at teachers, for instance, you will notice that in the teacher service, there is a 23% not covered in here. You'll notice it will tell you. So DB concurrency is not covered in the teachers area. See, this guy say there's no tests that run to cover that. I will try to come back and try to cover these tests, but obviously this is a problem, right? If you look at your code coverage again, let's look at another service, for instance. Let's look at the courses service, and then there you go, there's this guy in here. So duplicate key exception is not covered. DB update concurrency exception is not covered. So that just tells me, the test driven, you're not really test driving things if you're writing implementation first and then going and writing the the test after that. That doesn't work out, right? So this is how I can tell, whether the code is covered or not. Now, granted, it's a very low percentage of coverage, but still not acceptable that we are not covering these tests. So let me commit this real quick. So it's a quick code rub, and then we'll circle back and talk about everything else. All right. With that being said, again, I appreciate all the amount of time and effort that people are putting into this project. There's a lot of work, obviously. Like right now, we're really inching really close, like it's almost a month, and we already have over 400 tests, just about 400 unit tests, which tells you about the quality and the overall identity of the project when it comes to following best practices and coding standard and architecture and all that kind of stuff. But you want to be aware of these little things, and there will be situations where we start talking about the Florence pattern, and what is that Florence pattern? What are orchestrators? What are coordinators? What are processors? All these little things that basically help you better build a high quality, actual, truly single responsibility components, and I understand a lot of people have their own preferences and they may agree or disagree with from our code indentation all the way up to, things like, we don't really need brokers, or, why don't we use this pattern or that pattern. Everybody's passionate about a particular technology, about a way to implement the software. But at the end of the day, as long as we're discussing these things and we're open-minded and open-hearted to take on new opinions and new approaches, I think everything is going to be fine. And as long as we have an open discussion, I think everything is going to be fine. With that being said, please feel free to reach out if you have any comments, questions, or concerns. If you haven't received an assignment this week, I'm probably going to assign something to you next week. I usually just, switch between people and try to give people a little bit of a breathing room so they can go on their lives and handle other things and hopefully come back to the project and continue to contribute to it. The last thing that I wanted to tell you about is that very soon I'm going to be creating two other repositories for OtripleS. There will be OtripleS Mobile and OtripleS Portal, and both of these are going to be mainly helping people understand what the UI is going to look like and what the mobile application is going to look like for OtripleS communications. But at the same time, I want also people to learn about, Blazor as a UI technology. I want them to learn about Xamarin as a mobile technology and help them understand how to build proper user interface, mobile applications, and all that, hopefully in the upcoming sprints. That's pretty much it. Thank you for your patience watching the video. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to drop a comment in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in another video. Thank you for watching.